All right. Let's begin. All right, Rabbi, say good morning. So we are picking up on page Tzadik Tes. This is actually a long chapter, Mesilas Yesharim. So this is still towards the beginning. So remember again, we started yesterday, or I should say, we restarted yesterday in the midah of Nikios, of cleansing oneself from vestiges of Avera. And specifically that Ramchal is focusing on over here, this idea that there are certain Averos, which unfortunately many people fall prey to, and sometimes again without even knowing. That's this whole chap over here, that I'm doing things without even knowing. And Rabbi, so that, sometimes, we say, right? With Averas that I know, Averas that I don't know. So you would have thought that the way in general you do tshuva is from least severe to more severe. So I would have thought it would have been below yodim ubi yodim, right? Averas that I don't know and Averas that I do know. That's the way it makes sense. Just like we say chatanu avinu pashanu. So I think it's an incredible yisod, which is, bless you, which is, should be a year of gesund. Right? So I think what's interesting about it is as follows, that if you think about it, it does go from less severe to more severe. If I commit an avera, that ultimately, again, at the end of the day, I know about it. Okay, and I know that I did something wrong, I have to do tshuva. The greatest danger is when I'm doing something wrong and I don't even realize that it's wrong. I don't even realize that what lo yodim is actually more severe than yodim. It sounds strange because you would think that an avera b'mezid is like the strongest thing. Sometimes an avera b'shogeg is very strong. You see this all the time in relationships. You can see it in a marriage where one spouse does something that is very hurtful and harmful to the other spouse, and what happens? The aggrieved party never says anything. They don't say anything. Why? Because they expect that the other person will realize what it is that they're doing and will get their act together. Well, the person who is we'll call him what should we call him? I don't mean to assign pronouns, right? Him or her, right? But we'll call him the offender. The offender the perpetrator, right? Doesn't even realize what he's doing. He doesn't realize what he's doing. But yet years and years and years, something can go on, and the aggrieved party is so terribly hurt. The offender says, I didn't know. Chas v'shalom, had you told me that what I was doing was so terrible, had you told me that what I was doing was so offensive, of course I would have never intentionally hurt you. Just because it wasn't my intention, just because it was below yodim, doesn't mean that at the end of the day it wasn't horrifically hurtful. So it's an incredible yisod. This somebody just raised this to me on Yom Kippur. Actually, somebody said it to my son-in-law, who asked it to me afterwards by the Suda after the fast. What are you doing tshuva on? If you're already doing tshuva for biyodim, what are you tshuva for below yodim? Because sometimes the averos you commit without intent are even worse than the averos you commit with intent. Sometimes because the hurt keeps going on and on and on, especially if it's been adam l'chavero. And from a tshuva perspective, if I don't realize that I'm doing something wrong, I can't fix it. And that's what the Ramchal is referring to over here. He's referring to the things that I'm doing wrong, that at the end of the day, I don't even realize I am doing. And if I don't realize, and he's speaking again, remember, he has a very narrow focus over here of gezel, right? Of gezel, of theft. That there are things that I'm doing that really represent theft. I don't even realize that I'm doing it, and it's certainly not with malice. And because I don't realize that I'm doing it, it's almost impossible for me to fix it. V'yakov. That's someone else's cheshbon. It's right. I can't control what someone else does. I can only control my behavior. You're right. If I offend you, you have an obligation. You don't have an obligation. You should be mevater. 100%. But I can't control what you do or what you feel. I can only control myself, right? Because otherwise, you can go through life saying, I know I hurt you, but come on, it's your obligation to be mevater. So that sounds great if you're the offender, right? Not so great if you're the, what's the opposite of the offender? Offended. Thank you. Right, if you're the offended. All right. Get balance, 100%. Yaakov Avinu alav shalom mevar b'fiv omer. So what did Yaakov Avinu say? Remember again, this is Yaakov Avinu when he was dealing with Lavan. Hayisi bayom achalani chorev v'kerach balayla v'tidar shnasi me'inai. Maya anu eifa ha'oskim b'hanoseim b'shas malacho b'tilim mimena o kiyasko b'chavtseim ish lebitzos. So remember again, Yaakov Avinu when he's taking leave of, well actually, after he runs away from Lavan, and Lavan catches up with him, and Lavan is very offended that he left. So Yaakov Avinu says, I just want you to know, I worked for you day and night. So I'll tell you what's fascinating about this. So that Ramchal understands that Yaakov Avinu was not painting himself as some type of great tzaddik. What was Yaakov Avinu going in and painting himself as? A vigilant worker. I was a vigilant worker. I worked for you by day. I worked for you at night. In other words, I never slacked on the job. I never slacked off on the job. Whatever I was supposed to do, I always did. So says Ramchal, what will people today say? Sometimes again during work hours, I take care of my own needs, right? I do slack off, I do space out. So all the Ramchal is pointing out is something so profound. On a halachic level, when you are working for someone else and you are on their clock, you are mechuyev to watch your time. And I'm not permitted, if I'm a worker, to take care of my own things. Of course, okay, if I have the permission of my employer, right? If I have the permission but if I don't have the permission from my employer, ultimately, again, when I'm on the clock, and I have no right to do anything else. And to do anything else really is a form of gezel. Again, I'm not chas v'shalom actively trying to steal, and that's why he's using this. This is why the Gemara says that most people violate gezel, theft, and they don't even realize that they're in violation. Because I just need a few moments just to do this, just to do that. Chas v'shalom, I'm not running away for half of the day. You can't do it. If you're on someone else's clock, you're on someone else's clock. Klalo shel davar. This is incredible. Hasachar eitzel chavero. And by the way, you're going to see, he spends so much time on this, which is so interesting. You were thinking of all the mussar we need. He spends so much time on this because, again, the premise is that gezel is one of those things that most people end up transgressing without even realizing. Klalo shel davar. Hasachar eitzel chavero. If literally, again, literally means you're rented, you're hired by your friend to do some type of malacha. Hine, listen to this. So I will say, all of my hours belong to my employee. That's when you are hired by someone, ultimately, again, it is if you are sold to that person for the day. It's a very strong lashon. And if I'm on the clock and I go ahead and I take care of my own needs, says Ramchal, it's theft. It's mamish gezel gomer. Page kuf. So we'll say, so again, obviously, that means if I'm working for someone and I've taken care of my own stuff on company time, without their permission, I have to ask mechila. Right? And why? And if my friend, right, or if my boss chooses not to be mochel me, then what? Eino mochel. I'm not forgiven. Shekvar Amr Rabbi Sin Zichron Livracha, Averos Shebin Adam Lachavero, Ein Yom Kippur Mechaper Ad Shirat Eschar. It's incredible. Mamish Isru Chag of Isru Chag. Right? A reference to Yom Kippur. Mamish, because why? Well, so you know, when do you start preparing for Yom Kippur? When do you start preparing for Yom Kippur? By Ma'ariv. By Ma'ariv of Yom Kippur. What's the Mefurish Raya that you begin to prepare for next Yom Kippur? By Yom Kippur of Matzeh Yom Kippur? Slach lanu, right? Slach lanu avinu ki chatanu. Right? Slach lanu. So I told you the part with that, right? Tzaddik Pershischa. Okay, for a different time. Right? So means that's when the avoda begins. So therefore, again, at the end of the day, if I have taken care of personal business on company time, so that is gezel. And because it's gezel, I'm chayiv to ask my employer for mechila. If he forgives me, great. And if not, I have to keep on asking for forgiveness until he does, because even Yom Kippur doesn't take care of, ultimately, again, ben adam lechaver infractions. V'la'od. Elash afilu im asa mitzvah. Both say this is incredible. Elafilu shasa mitzvah bisman malachto. They both say this happens all the time, right? I was late for shir. Right? I missed the daf. So you know what? I'm going to catch up on the daf. I'll just catch up on the daf. I'm going to do my work. I'll listen to it at 1.5 times speed, right? Or 2.5 times speed, whatever it is. I'll chop it in, I'll get it in, and it's great. We'll say, so again, what is that called? Lo, Gemara says, the Ramchal says, Lo litzdaka techashev lo. You don't get a mitzvah for that. Ela aveira hi biyado. It is an aveira to use your employer's time for the performance of a mitzvah. She'ein aveira mitzvah. Because an aveira can never become a mitzvah. Krak siv sone gezel ba'olah. Ukinyan zeh sha'amu zichron levracha. But this is what the Gemara compares it to. Harish gazel sachitim utchana v'lasha va'afa v'hifrish yimena chala u'mevarich ein zeh mevarich ela mena'it tichsiv u'botzei beirach ni'etz Hashem. So the Chal compares it to the Gemara's example of a person who steals wheat, grinds it up into flour, makes bread, separates out chala, and makes the bracha. Asher k'sham sivana lahafrish chala mina isa. Right, because it separates out chala. Mitzvah daraisa. Right, I'm going to give it to the Kohen, or I'm not going to give it to him, but I'm taking chala. Says the Gemara, that's not a bracha, that's blasphemy. Ein zeh mevarich ela mina'itz. Dichsev ubotzea beirach ni'etz Hashem. Literally again, he who steals and blesses God for that which he stole blasphemes God. So this is a mitzvah ba'avera. So even if a person goes ahead and takes the time from their employer and goes ahead and uses it for a mitzvah purpose, that's not called a mitzvah, says Ramchal. That's called an avera. V'akiyotze bazeh ne'emar oy lo lazeh she'na'aseh sanegoro kategoro. So Ramchal says, woe to this one. This one is a reference to a person who performs a mitzvah that is really an avera because his defender becomes his prosecutor. Normally, again, my mitzvos are what defend me. But when my mitzvah is committed in a way which ultimately results in an aveira, then the mitzvah is no longer my defense. The mitzvah is my prosecution. The gezel's man, gezel. So we'll say, if I steal an object, that's called theft. If I steal time, that's called theft. Magozel as a chifetz v'oseh b'mitzvah. Na'aseh sanigoro kategoro. We'll say lulav agazel. If I steal a lulav, and I go ahead and I use it for my own purposes, then what happens? We'll say that's not a mitzvah. The mitzvah, right? The mitzvah, my defender has become my prosecutor, right? Kategornas sanigornas kategoro. Af gozel as hazman v'oseh b'mitzvah. So too, if I steal time and I use that time to perform a mitzvah, na'aseh sanigoro kategoro. Ultimately, again, my defender becomes my prosecutor. This is such an incredible idea. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want more than anything? HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, emunah over here doesn't mean faith. Well, it does mean faith. It means faithfulness, trust, honesty. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, we've spoken about this many times before. The Rebbe Shalom does not demand perfection from me. Doesn't demand perfection from anyone for one simple reason, which is he can't. Impossible. He can't demand something that I can't deliver. I can't deliver perfection. I could deliver effort, but I cannot deliver perfection. So what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu ask me for? He asks me for trust. He asks me for honesty. So be honest. And we'll say this, by the way, is the key to success in life. Being honest with myself about what I am and what I'm not. This is the whole avoda of Yom Kippur. Right? The whole avoda of Yom Kippur is honesty. What's tshuva? Tshuva's honesty. How do you know that? What does the Rambam say in the beginning of Hilchos Tshuva? Right? The kishiyasa tshuva v'yashuv mechet'o chayiv adam lehisvados. Why does the Rambam say that? When you do tshuva, when you decide to do tshuva, vidui is the first step. What's vidui? What's vidui? We translate it as confession. What is it really? It's honesty. I'm being honest. I'm being honest. That's why, by the way, it's not just enough to say, Chatasi avisi upashati. There's a very important phrase that comes after that. Some of us say it every single day in Shema Kolinu. There's an insert. Chatasi avisi upashati, v'asisi kach v'kach. V'asisi kach v'kach. Right? Because honesty means, this is what I did. This is what I did. So says the Ramchal, HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs me to be honest. B'chinu omer emunim notzer Hashem. V'omer pischu sha'arim v'yavo gai tzadik shomer emunim. V'omer einei b'nei aretz l'sheves imadi v'omer einecha halo le'emuna. So you see all of these examples of where HaKadosh Baruch Hu simply just asks us for emunah. V'hine Iyov heyed al asma v'amar im tite ashuri mini aderech v'achar einei halach libi u'v'chapi davak mo'om v'habeit v'fi ha'mashal hazeh. All right, we'll have to stop over here. We'll pick up in Mir Hashem with this discussion. There's still more. The Ramchal, it's actually quite astounding to see how much time the Ramchal actually devotes to this. It's really incredible. And you begin to see, because halacha lemaisa, he feels it's such an issue, such a problem. He brings so many different examples. So we'll stop here. I guess we're continuing when? After Sukkot. So first of all, feel free to continue on your own. Right? That's number one. Learn ahead, read ahead. And the Jew needs Mesilas Hashem every single day. But Amir will continue this year after Sukkot. B'Shal Tov Mitzvah. Can I just hear a sigh of relief? Okay, good. Right, and we begin Amir Hashem also Meseches Tamid. So really, it's exciting. No, I'm saying, like, you never know, like these days where you're going to end up. You never know where the journey is going to take you. So it's. I'm sorry. There's actually going to be like 4 siyumim. We're about I think 7 or 8 siyumim behind. But all right, let's begin. We'll say, come weiter. So we'll say, regarding the last parak, Rashi points out over here, I should say the Mefarish points out over here, on the left-hand side of the commentary, B'medar Murim b'koina nimlach apirka kama kai v'hachi kamar B'medar Murim b'chata shenis arva ba'ola shenis arva b'chatas afilu echa beribo yamusu kulam. So we'll say, when we were talking about the cases yesterday of the mixtures of the bird pairs, and we had a number of different situations which ended with all of the birds in a particular group being left to die. When is that true? B'koin hanimlach, when you have a kohen who asks what to do in a particular scenario. Ava b'kohen she'eno nimlach. They both say, what happens if you have a kohen who doesn't ask? Right? Doesn't ask. So what's interesting is the last parak, it's really the last 2 parakim, were fundamentally rooted, really the second parak, because the first parak was much more kind of outlining the halachas, is when the kohen, there was the mixture, or the mix-up, and the kohen asked what to do. That was the halachic definition then. This parak we're going to focus a little bit more on, there's a mix-up. Kohen doesn't necessarily ask what to do, he just does. Now, after the fact, trying to figure out what's the impact. By the way, many people live like that, right? Act first, ask later, and then try to figure out what to do in the aftermath. So what happens? What happens if the kohen doesn't ask? So watch this. Achas lezu v'achas lezu. So if you have a situation of one woman has one kan, another woman has another kan, top of chaf dalet, or shtayim lezu v'shtayim lezu, shalosh lezu v'shalosh lezu. So we'll say, so again, either way, the point is you have 2 women, right, with multiple bird pairs. And what happens? They all come to the kohen together. Asa kulam lamalo. So we'll say, what happens if the kohen slaughters them and sprinkles all of the blood above the chut hasikra, above the red line? Now, we'll say, so remember again, the important part to keep in mind over here is olos are offered lemala, chatas, ola lemala, chatas lemata. Right? Ola birds sprinkled, blood sprinkled above the line. Chatas birds, blood sprinkled below the line. So what's the halacha? In this case over here, the kohen sprinkled all of the blood above the line. So what's the halacha? Mechza kasher, mechza pasel. So we'll say ultimately again, half will be kasher, half will be pasel. Kulam lamata, if you sprinkled all of the blood below the line. Mechza kasher, mechza pasel. Good, we'll say pretty straightforward. Chatziam lamalon, v'chatziam lamata. Lamatan, what happens if you went ahead and you slaughtered the birds and you applied half of the blood above the chut hasikra, half of the blood below the red line, below the chut hasikra? Es shalamalon, so amongst the group that was sprinkled above the red line, mechza kashu, mechza pasel. So we'll say, from the half that was sprinkled above the red line, half of them are kasher, half of them are pasel. Ve'es shalamaton, and the half that you sprinkled below the red line, mechza kasher umechza pasel. Half of them will be kasher, and ultimately half of them will be pasel. Good. Mishnah Beis. Achos lazu shtayim lazu. So Rabbi say now we're going to deal with multiple women who have unequal numbers of pairs each. Achos lazu shtayim lazu. What happens if one woman has one pair, another woman has two pairs, or v'shalosh, and then v'shalosh lazu, v'esra lazu, umeya lazu. So you have a bunch of women, each of them with dissimilar number of bird pairs. Now the Kohen, remember again, in all of these cases, as the first Mishnah pointed out, all these groupings are coming to the Kohen, and the Kohen offers them up. He offers them up without first consulting about anything. So he just offers it up. So what's the halacha? Asa kulam lamala. If he offered up all of the birds and slaughtered them and and sprinkled the blood above the line, asa kulam lamala mechza kasher umechza pasel. So ultimately, again, half will be kasher and half will be pasel. Kulan lamata, if he sprinkled all of them below the red line, mechza kasher, mechza pasel, same halacha. Half will be kasher, half will be pasel. Chatzyan lemalon, v'chatzyan lematan. But say if, however, he went ahead and he offered half of them above the red line and half of them below the line, so we'll say, so now because this is a situation of unequal pairs. In other words, each woman in this particular scenario has different numbers of bird pairs, so the halacha is going to be a little bit different in this case. So chatzion lamala v'chatzion lamata hameruba kasher. So we'll say if he does half of the birds above the line, half of the birds below the line, so literally what it means is hameruba kasher. So we'll say what it literally means is the meruba, which means the largest number, the woman with the largest number of pairs, the number of pairs in the largest group will ultimately remain kasher. Zehaklal. This is the rule, says the Mishnah. Komakom sha'afte yachal lechalek esakinim, shelo yehe mishal isha achos, bein lamala, bein lamatan. When you could split up the bird pairs in a way that any particular woman, well, any particular situation where you could create, where the numbers would allow that you could have one particular woman whose karbanos would technically not be sprinkled above and below, in that case, mechzan kasher umechzan pasel. Then ultimately that results in half of the bird pairs being kasher, half of the bird pairs being pasel. But in a situation where just numerically or statistically, it's unlikely. We're just statistically speaking, any one woman is going to have birds of her offered above the line and below the line, hamaruba kasher. Then I will say in that case, only the number of pairs in the largest group ultimately again will be kasher. Good. Mishnah Gimel. Chatos lazu ola lazu. So we'll say another very interesting case here. This one is a little bit different than the previous one. If you take a look, actually we don't have to look at Chatos lazu ola lazu. So we'll say in this case over here, you have two women who are joining together in a bird pair, right? One of them needs a chatos, one of them needs an ola. So we'll say what's the mitzias over here? Whatever it is, meaning woman number one offered up her ola already, she just needs a chatas. Woman number two offered up her chatas ready, she just needs an ola. Whatever the mitzias is, chatas lazu, ola lazu. So ultimately, again, I want to do we'll wait with the rush. Chatas lazu, ola lazu. So we'll say same thing, and now what happens? Everything gets mixed together, and the Kohen goes in and offers it. So what's the halacha? Asa kulon lemalon. If he offered everything above the line, mechza kasher umechza pasel. Half will be kasher, half will be pasel. Kulon lemata, if everything was offered below the chut hasikra, mechza kasher umechza pasel. Half will be kasher, half will be pasel. Chetzyan lemalon v'chetzyan lematan. What happens if he did half below the line, half above the line? So we'll see, interestingly enough, psulos. The halach in this case is everything will be pasel. Why? Sha'ani omer chatas krevan lamala olan lamata. Because they're both saying because there's the possibility that because over here there's not all that much wiggle room. So the issue over here is that halacha lamaisa, where he offered half above and half below, one above and one below, it's possible that the chatas was offered above, the ola was offered below, and therefore halacha lamaisa, everything will be pasel. Good. Dalit. Chatos v'ola. So we'll say now a little bit of introduction to this case. Take a look at the Rush over here. Dalid. It's excuse me. Thank you. Dalid on the bottom of the Rush. Chatos v'ola. So let's just read this line, and then we'll go back to the Mishnah. Perish Rachel v'leya. Rachel v'leya. Shalachchu Gimel Kennim b'shutfas. I'm reading the Rush now, Mishnah Dalid. So Rachel and Leah, they went in a partnership in 3 Kennim, 3 bird pairs. Now I will say the 3 bird pairs are each different. Kan echad asu chatas l'Rachel va'ola l'Leah. So we'll say in bird pair number 1. So ultimately again, Rachel gets the chatas, Leah gets the ola. That's kan number 1. Kan echad hinicha stuma v'lo kavu zula chatas v'zula ola. In kan number 2, bird pair number 2, so they're also going to split it, but they did not define which is which. They did not identify which is the chatos and which is the ola. So we'll say, so now look at the Mishnah. So chatos v'ola, so we'll say, so now back up to Mishnah Daled. So chatos v'ola means, again remember, they're sharing 3 bird pairs. Bird pair number 1, Rachel gets the chatos, Leah gets the ola. Pair number 2 is stuma. Undefined, or what was the word we used? Not undefined, undesignated, right? Undesignated bird pair, right? So again, I know one is going to be for Rachel, one is going to be for Leah, but we have not decided. I should say differently. We haven't decided which is the chatas, which is the ola, and lastly, mifureshes. And I will say, and then pair number 3 ultimately again is a kan mifureshes, is an identified, but what? But not assigned. Identified but not assigned. So number 1 is a bird pair which is identified and assigned. Number 2, unidentified, undesignated. Number 3, identified but not assigned. So says the Mishnah, so we'll say, so now what happens? All of these bird pairs go ahead and get mixed together. So asa kulan limalun. So we'll say if all of them were offered up above the chutas sikra, mechza kasher, mechza pasal. Half will be kasher, half will be pasal. Kulan lematan. If all of them were offered up below the chotas sikra, mechza kasher, mechza pasal. Same halacha, right? Half kasher, half pasal. Chetzia lemalon v'chetzia lematan. What happens if half were done above, half done below? Ein kasher elastuma. We'll say out of all the bird pairs, it is only the stuma, only the undefined, what's the word? Undesignated, thank you, undesignated bird pair that ultimately again will be kasher. Vihi mischalekes beinehem. And I will say ultimately again, it is divided between the 2. Look at the Rush again once more. Ein kasher elastuma. The Rush says, the osa shehikriv lamala hi ola, v'osa shehikriv lamata hi chatas. So we'll say because in the stuma, in the undefined pair, right, or the unassigned pair, ultimately, again, what we assume is the one offered above will be the ola, the one offered below will be the chatos. Uba'achiros ikalamechash shemehikre v'chataos lamala va'olos lamata kigon shekol kan v'kan hu bifnei atzmo v'asim mikol echad chatziav the Tana Basar Hachi Chova Shnayim Bechatas Chatas Shnayim Bechova. So we'll say ultimately again. So therefore, I'm sorry, I read that. I skipped the line. V'va'asak mikol echad chatziav lamala v'chatziav lamata. V'hi mischalek has b'neim. The Rosh says v'yaviu od kan echad b'neim. So we'll say, so therefore halacha l'maisa. In this case over here, we have the 3 mixtures of the 3 different kans. One ultimately again being mifureshes and assigned. One being stuma. One just being mifureshes. Everything above, half is kasher, half is pasal. Everything below, half is kasher, half is pasal. Mechza umechza. Ultimately, again, the only thing that's kasher is the kan stuma, is the unassigned kan. And as the Rash points out, that's fine. But an unassigned kan, remember, only does what? An unassigned kan only takes care, presumably, of half of the obligation for each woman. Therefore, halacha l'maaseh, they will have to bring another bird pair. Hey, chatoshen is arvu b'chova. So we'll say another interesting case. So what happens? You have chatas birds that got mixed in with other obligatory birds, right? Other obligatory offerings. Now we'll say now what happened over here is same case where the Kohen offers it up, half of them, right? Chatzi lemala v'chatzi lemata. Chatzi lemata, right? The Rosh says over here, chatosh nesar b'chova perish shava b'shava nesarvu chatos b'chova. So ultimately, again, so what ends up happening over here is you have you have the chatos birds that get mixed in with other obligatory offerings. Ain kosher. So we'll say if we look at Rush for just a moment, he says chatos shenis arva bechova. The Rush says perish shava b'shavanis arvu chatos bechova shtei chatos bekan chova stuma odal chatos b'shnei kinui chova umishum detana basar hachi chova. Fine. So let's see back to Mishnah. So ain kosher elam minyan hachatos shebechova. So what's an interesting halach over here? In this type of situation, only the corresponding number of chatos will be kosher. Only the number of birds corresponding to the number of chatos that were mixed in ultimately again remain kosher in this mixture. Amud Beis, chova shnaim bechatos. But also this interesting case. What happens if there are twice as many? Chova shnaim bechatos means twice as many obligatory offerings than the chatos birds mixed in. So the Gemara says, mechza kosher umechza pasal. Ultimately, again, half will be kosher and half will be pasal. Chatos shnayim bechova. What happens if halacha l'maisa there's twice as many chatos? Ultimately, again, as the rest of the chova birds. So it says the Gemara, chatos shnayim bechova haminyan shabechova kosher. So we'll say so again. The number of birds corresponding to the obligatory offerings, that's what will be kosher. Similarly, again, if you have an ola that was mixed into other obligatory offerings, ein kosher ela minyan olos shebechova. Ultimately, again, only the number of olos, right, corresponding to the number of chovos, only the number of olos in the mixture will remain kosher. Chova shnayim ba'ola. What happens if you have twice as many of the obligatory offering birds than the number of olos? Mechza kosher umechza pasal. Good. Half will be kosher, half will be pasal. Ola shnayim b'chova. What happens if halacha l'maisa there's twice as many ola birds as obligatory birds? Haminyan shebechova kosher. Then ultimately, again, the number of corresponding obligatory birds, that'll be the number of birds in the mixture, ultimately, again, that are kosher. And I will say, so I just want to point out over here, so the Rush actually points this out, which is fascinating about all of this. This is why you now understand why the Mishnah of the first Mishnah in the parak opened the way that it did, which is all of this, as opposed to the last Mishnah, as opposed to the last parak, where we were focusing much more heavily on cases where halacha l'maisa, the Kohen did not do anything yet, but I have a mixture of bird pairs sitting in front of me trying to figure out what to do. And then again, the shaila is what could be offered, what can't be offered. So remember again, in those cases, that's where the halacha many times was, don't offer it. Don't offer it, because again, where there's ambiguity, where there's sacrificial ambiguity, we don't always want you offering anything. These cases are dramatically different. Why? Because what's happening over here, the Kohen has already offered everything. So because the Kohen has offered it, we're asking the shaila now ex post facto, what is the status of the birds which have been offered? So what you see something also amazing, which is you begin to see that before things are offered up, so halacha l'maisa, we pretty much almost never let you offer up a karban where there is some level of sacrificial ambiguity. What's fascinating is once the Kohen has already done it, you see what's incredible over here when you see a lashon of mechza pasal, mechza kasher. I will say, what does that mean? Essentially, what it means is we're employing either breira or some type of breira derivative to be able to say that a certain number of karbanos were absolutely kosher, were absolutely okay. Some of them were not, but halacha l'maisa, this is an incredible chiddush in sacrificial law. Normally, we would think where there's any level of ambiguity, halacha l'maisa, everything is possible. Everything is possible. But you begin to see, again, at least, again, mechza kasher, mechza pasal, we also begin to see that ultimately we make the assumption based on ratios about the identities of the birds. That's why you have these cases of chova shnayim bechatos, twice as many obligatory birds than chatas birds, twice as many chatas birds than obligatory birds, that'll ultimately, again, determine the outcome, or I should say, determine the effectiveness of the carbon after it's already been offered up. Good. Mishnah Vav. Another interesting case. Ha'isha sha'amra. So it's an interesting case here. A woman says, so we'll say in this case over here, a woman is taking a neder upon herself that if she gives birth to a boy, she's going to bring a pair of birds. going to bring a pair of birds. If you look at the Rush for just a moment over here, the Rush says, Ha'isha shama harei alai kan kishe'elid zachar. So, actually, I'm sorry, not yet. So we'll say, so just to point out what's happening over here. When a woman gives birth, so she's obligated to bring karbanos leida, right? Again, if she has money, right? If she has means, so one of those karbanos comes from a sheep, the other one is a bird. If she doesn't have means, then both of them could be birds. She could bring a kansiporim. In this case over here, in addition to her karban leida, she's making a neder. This is a supplemental offering. She says, if I give birth to a boy, I want to go ahead and bring another karban, a kansipor, Kennim. I want to go ahead and bring a bird pair. Yolda Zachar, so again, if Mazel Tov, she gives birth to a boy, so what's the halacha? Mevia shtei Kennim. She brings two bird pairs. Why two bird pairs? Achas l'nidra, v'achas l'chovasa. One ultimately, again, is for her obligatory birth offering, right? Because she's giving birth. And the other, ultimately, again, is to satisfy her nether. So we'll say, obviously, we're talking about over here, a woman who can't afford an animal offering for karban leida. So this woman's going to bring birds for her karban leida. She's bringing two sets of birds, one for her karban leida, one for her nether. Okay, so we'll say, so now watch this. Okay, so far, pretty straightforward case. Woman shows up to the Beis HaMikdash with two bird pairs. One for Leda, one for Neder. Now, both say, now let's understand. Are those bird pairs the same? No. The bird pair for Leda, what's this? What are those birds? One is a chatos, one is an ola. The bird pairs for the Neder, both olos. Both olos. Remember, again, there's no chat. You can't bring a chatos as a Neder, right? Or a Neder and a dava. So again, so in her mixture of four birds, she has three olos and one chatas. Now watch this. Nast on the Kohen, she gives them to the Kohen. Sa Kohen Zarach Lasos, Gimel Preidim Milamalan, Ve'echa Milamatan. So we both say pretty straightforward day in the Beis HaMikdash. So the Kohen gets four birds. What does he have to do? Three are slaughtered, get their blood sprinkled above the Chotas Sikra, that's an Ola, and one of them gets their blood sprinkled below the Chotas Sikra. Lo Asakain. What happens if the Kohen did not do this? Ella, Shtayim Milamalan, Ushtayim Milamatan. Velo nimlach. So we'll say, so what happens? So what happens if the Kohen did two above the line, two below the line, and he never consulted? So what's the halacha? Tzricha lahavi od preda achas v'yakrivena milamalan. So we'll say in that case over here, we would tell her, okay, you have to bring another bird, and it's going to be treated as an ola, and we're going to sprinkle the blood above it. We'll say, by the way, this is an interesting discussion in general, which is what happens if a Kohen messes up with a karban, right? So it's very nice, he has to bring another karban. What's the shayla? Who pays for it? So I'll say, so interestingly enough, halacha in general provides for professional, professional liability coverage, right? In other words, malpractice insurance, right? So this is very important. Halacha in general holds of this, because otherwise people will be reluctant. We see this. We live in a very litigious society, and very often, it leads everyone to be very reticent and scared to do their job. So interestingly enough, so there's a whole discussion in general. It's like, that's why, a doctor chas v'shalom kills someone in the course of treating them, as long as they were not, negligent, or, then of course halacha covers them in every single way. Granted, it's gross negligence. It's mamish, like, it has to be gross negligence in halacha. Or a lot of different times when you go out and you help someone, you try to do something nice, even if you end up adversely impacting them, halacha l'maisa, you're usually covered by, your Good Samaritan halachic malpractice insurance. So we'll say, so according to many opinions, same thing applies in the Beis HaMikdash as well. That if a Kohen messes something up, assuming that it's not gross negligence, so halacha l'maisa, it's on the person. It's on the person. So now, what I do want to mention is, a lot of times I've always thought about this. I'm not even necessarily sure that the owner would actually know or not. Meaning, because remember, for example, this is happening in the confines of the Beis HaMikdash. So remember, the woman's not there. The woman's not there, right? The woman's coming into the chutzner at Mo. She's not going in by the mizbeach. So you could see in by the mizbeach. But okay, whatever. That's not important. It's interesting. Something to think about. In any event, so the kohen goes out. We're supposed to sprinkle 3 of the birds, the blood of 3 of the birds above the chut hasikra, 1 below the chut hasikra. Makes a mistake. Does 2 and 2. So what's the halacha? Woman has to bring another bird, and the other bird is going to be an olah, blood sprinkled above. Mimin echad. Now all of this is assuming. This is now we get into an interesting qualification discussion. This is all assuming that the 4 birds that she brought were all of one species. Right? Remember again, we saw in yesterday's daf that halacha l'maisa, you could bring Torim or Bnei Yonah, but what? You have to choose a team. Now what happens in this case over here, you only have to choose a team per kan. So for example, in this case over here, if the woman was bringing 2 bird pairs, could she technically bring 1 Torim, 1 Bnei Yonah? Sure, she absolutely could. That would make things more complicated in this case. So when we say that the kohen was supposed to do 3 above, 1 below, he does 2 and 2. So now what do we say? She has to bring another bird. Right? And that bird is going to be treated as an olah with the blood sprinkled above. That is true min echad, when all of the birds came from the same type of bird species, either Torim or Bnei Yonah. Look at the Rush for just a moment. Says the Rush, mimin echad, Imarishonim hayu mimin echad, hayu Torim, tavitar. Thank you. So ultimately, again, actually, I'm sorry, that's the wrong Rush. That Rush comes in a little bit. So, Min Echad, Mishnei Minim, what happens if halacha l'maisa, she brought 2 different types of birds? Then what's the halacha? Tavishtayim. She has to bring 2 additional olos. So we'll say if it's 2 different birds, 2 different bird types, then halacha l'maisa, because we're not sure what happened over here, should be obligated to bring 2 more birds and to bring them as olos. Next case, Pirsha Nidra. So we'll say here, take a look at the Rush again. Pirsha Nidra, Devishas Nidra, Amra, Hare Alai Kantorim Oshne Bnei Yonah, Vishara Ma Pirsha. So we'll say, so this is very interesting. So let's say she articulated a neder, but she forgot exactly what it is that she said. So again, Devishas Nidra, Amra, Hare Alai Kantorim Oshne Bnei Yonah, Vishara Ma Pirsha, Nimtza Shitzricha Lahavi Lenidra Torim Ubnei Yonah Misafek. So we'll say in this case over here, I know that I pledged a bird pair. I don't remember, did I pledge Torim or Bnei Yonah? So what do you do in this case? Pirsha Nidra, Tzricha lahavi od gimel preidim. So we'll say, so again, remember, these cases are building on each other. Let's see, she articulated her neder, but she doesn't remember ultimately, again, what it is that she said. And I will say it's the same case. The kohen offered up half and half, 2 above, 2 below. And so we'll say, so now what happens? She has to bring another 3 birds. Because in this case, there's the additional layer of ambiguity of not knowing ultimately, again, did she say Torim or Bnei Yonah? This is only min echad. Mishnei minin, however, again, if she brought from 2 different species, then what? Tavi arba. She would have to bring an additional 4 birds. Says the Mishnah, Kava Nidra. So this is another interesting case. What's Kava Nidra? If you take a look at the Rush again, Kava Nidra, Shekav Aso Lahavia Al Kan Chovasa. So we'll say in this case over here, not only did she articulate that she's going to remember again, this woman is about to give birth, or she makes a neder. If I give, it's all the same case in the Mishnah. If I give birth to a zachar, if I give birth to a boy, I hereby commit myself to bringing another bird pair. So we'll say, so this case is a little bit different. In this case over here, she says, I commit myself to bring another bird pair together with my obligatory bird pair. So she knows she's going to have to bring an obligatory bird pair, ultimately, again, because of her leida, because of giving birth. Salacha l'maisa, Kava Nidra means she establishes that she's going to bring the neder kan together with the obligatory kan. Look at the Rush again. Shekavaso lahavia al kan chovasa. Sha'amra hare alai kan im elid zachar lahavi im kan bechovasi. So we'll say here she's obligating herself to bring the neder kan together with the obligatory kan. The kivna lakavi kan meha neder gimel olos ke'achad. And we'll say again in this case, what was her kavana? Remember, Rabbi saying all of these cases, the designation is the same. When she's pledging 2 kans, when she's pledging 2 bird pairs, one is a neder, one for her leida. So Allah, what's happening over here? 3 olos, 1 chatos. 3 above the chut hasikra, 1 below. In this case over here, what she's doing is she's embedding the neder with the obligation. So when I bring my, so now, we'll say, so up until now, what we've been saying is there's a neder that's triggered with the Leida, but lav dafka, that the obligatory offering and the neder offering are intertwined. They're two different offerings. So she'll bring the Leida offering, or she'll bring the neder whenever she's obligated to bring the neder. Here she's embedding the neder with the chov. When I bring my chov, I'm also going to bring the neder. So kava nidra, and I will say it's all the same case. Kohen makes a mistake. Instead of doing 3 above and 1 below, he does 2 and 2. So what's talacha? Tzricha lahavi od chamesh pridin. So I will say she has to bring now another five birds. Look at the rush again. Why is that? So lahavi od chamesh pridin liola imarishonu hayim minecha. So we'll say if all of the birds that she's bringing from the 2 pairs are all one type of bird, then halacha lemaisa she has to bring 5 additional birds in order to take care of all the possible ambiguity. Mishnei meaning, if however again she was bringing from 2 different types of birds, then sheish. Then halacha lemaisa she would have to bring 6 birds. Okay, nisanasan lekoin ve'ini odas man nasna. But it's an interesting case. What happens if she gave it to the Kohen and she did not know what she gave him? Now again, look at the rush one more time. Nisanasan lekoin perish shnei kinin. So we'll say, remember, all the same case, right? All the same case. Woman's giving birth. She makes neder, if I give birth to a boy, I'm going to bring a kan. She gives all the birds to the Kohen, and she doesn't know exactly what she gave him. So she doesn't know, was it min echad? Was it beis minim? Was it all the same type of bird? Not the same type of bird. So what's the halacha? The Kohen went and he did the karbanos. So say, Mamish, in this case, no one knows what's going on over here. She doesn't know. Busy day today, she doesn't know what she gave him. He doesn't even remember what he did with them. Meaning he offered them, where he offered them. I know they went on the mizbeach. So what happens? Ma'asa tzricha lahavi od predin arba'a lenidra ushtayim lechavasa v'chatas achas. So both say. So in this case over here, remember here everything has fallen apart. Because everything has fallen apart, so pretty much she's going to have to bring pretty much like a new set of karbanos. So she'll have to go ahead and bring another four birds for her neder, 2 more birds. Because you're supposed to remember again, why all the new? Remember again, how could she be obligated to bring more birds than she originally gave him? How many birds? 4. Now remember, what are we saying? She has to bring another 4 birds for her neder, another 2 birds for her chov, and 1 chatos. So why? Because remember here the ambiguity is I don't know. She doesn't know what type of birds she brought. Was it Torin? Was it Bnei Yonah? Did the Kohen do it above? Did the Kohen do it below? So in order to go ahead and kind of take care of all the possibilities, ultimately again she's going to bring 4 for her neder, 2 for her chatas, 2 for her chova, right? 4 to satisfy the possibilities for the neder, 2 to satisfy the possibility for the chova, and ultimately again 1 chatas. Top of Chav Hey. Ben Azai says shtei chatos, not 1 chatos, but instead she has to bring 2 chatos. If you take a look at Rashi on top, so Rashi says over here shtei chatos. Ben Azai tamei dilael damra kol holich achar rishon. So also remember again, this goes back before to discussing the interesting idea about what happens if you end up, so you're supposed to say there's another possibility. The other possibility in all of this, since she doesn't know what she did, is what? Meaning, no, I should say differently. Since she doesn't know if she brought the chatos, if she brought a tar or a ben Yonah. So remember again, we saw in yesterday's daf the machlokes about what happens if you bring a bird pair made up of 2 different birds. So everyone agrees that what? That you have to now bring a second bird to make the pair uniform. What was the machlokes? Which bird determines the species for the bird pairs? Remember again, Ben Azai said it was what? It was the chatos. Whatever type of bird you offered up for the chatos, ultimately again is the type of bird for the ola. The Rabban of the Tanakama said no, it was what? Whichever one you offered up first. So therefore, ultimately, again, Ben Azai says that halach l'maisa in this type of case with all of the confusion. So halach l'maisa is not going to be enough to bring 1 chatos, but instead, ultimately, again, you're going to be required to bring 2 chatos. So if you finish Rashi, actually, if you take a look, first, maybe better look at Tosas. Ben Azai amar shtei chatos, achas treva achas ben Yonah, Ben Azai tamei de amar la parak sheni akol holich achar harishon, sheish alahavi hasheni min harishon, Hilchach zu she'eni odas eza min avir rishon v'shem akulam l'mal karban v'yatzei dechavasa eni odas. So ultimately again, I'm sorry, I reversed it. Ben Azai says Holich Acharishon, excuse me. Tanakama said you go after the Chatas, Ben Azai says you go after the first one. And since ultimately, again, we don't know which one went first, therefore Halacha L'maisa, Ben Azai says you'll be required to go ahead and bring 2 Chatos. So stop over here, share with you a short idea on the parasha. So we'll say we have the great schos this Shabbos, Parshas Hazinu. The Hazinu again. Hazinu is a dramatic parsha on a variety of different levels. The last message of Moshe, even though V'zos HaBracha is also the last message of Moshe Rabbeinu to Klal Yisrael. At the end of the day, Hazinu is one of the most powerful messages that Moshe Rabbeinu conveys to Klal Yisrael, because it's in the form of a shira, and anything that you find in the form of a shira always comes with a dramatic level of importance. So I just want to share with you something amazing. I've mentioned this concept in other contexts, but just because I mentioned it before doesn't make it any less important. So the pasuk from the very opening pasuk in the parasha, the pasuk says, "Ha'azinu hashamayim va'adabera v'asishma aretz imrefi." Literally, again, if the heavens will listen. Hearken, right? Let the heavens listen, and I will speak. Vasishma aretz imrefi, and let the earth hear the words of my mouth. So Rashi HaKadosh. So again, it's a beautiful pasuk. What does it mean? So Rashi HaKadosh understands that Moshe Rabbeinu was saying, "I'm telling you something important. Unless you deny that I ever told it to you, I'm calling upon heaven and earth as my witnesses. I'm not calling on people because people come and go. Heaven and earth are here forever. So ha'azinu hashamayim va'adabera, heavens, witness what I'm about to say. Vasishma aretz imrefi, earth, you be my other witness. Heaven and earth, you are going to witness what I'm telling Klal Yisrael." And remember again, in the course of Hazinu, Moshe Rabbeinu then goes in and tells Klal Yisrael, it's a relationship contract. It's a relationship contract. You want stuff from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have to put in. If you stray, HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes away as well. So Moshe Rabbeinu brings in heaven and earth as his witnesses. But there's an incredible insight from the tzaddik, the Sar Shalom of Belz. The Belz Rabbi Zechat Tzaddik Livracha says something amazing. Get ready to what he says. Listen to this. Ha'azinu Hashem v'adabera. What does it mean when we say, "Listen, heavens, and I will speak"? Im ta'azinu, if you listen, akabel hashra, ve'eyeh kemayan hanoveya. Moshe Rabbeinu says, heavens, if you listen, I will be able to speak, and I will be like a flowing well. She efsher liskos lis alos hamadregos u'l'shefa elyon. Because, listen to this, because it is impossible to benefit from a heightened level of holiness and divine blessing. El imkein yesh al mi lahashpia. Unless, of course, there is someone to give it to. You cannot get divine blessing unless, of course, there's someone to give it to. What does it mean? He says, "Asar Shalom." HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us bracha in life. Why? To be able to do good things in this world. To be able to take the blessings that I have and not just enrich my own life, but ultimately, again, do good for the other. If you find outlets to do good for the other, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will shower His bracha upon you. If you get the bracha and you keep it for yourself and just use it for your own personal happiness and contentment, then ultimately what? Then ultimately the bracha stops coming. It's like a flowing well. The more you take from the well, the more you empty the well, the more the well has the opportunity to fill up. Don't empty the well, okay, the well will stay there. Empty the well, every time you empty it, more beautiful water fills it up. Says the Rebbe, that's the meaning. Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Ha'azinu hashamayim." If there's someone to listen, even the heavens, va'adabera, I'll have what to say. As long as I have the ability to give, even if it's just to the heavens, then I will be able to continue to speak, I'll be able to continue to give. Says the Rebbe, a lot of times when we give to other people, we feel that it comes at our own expense. Right? When I give, whether it's of my money, of my time, of my resources, of my kochos, whatever it is, whatever I give to you, by definition, there's less for me. Says the Tzad Shalom Abels, nothing further from the truth. In fact, the more you give, the more you get. I will say, this is not a fundraising pitch. I want to be clear on that. Right? This is a life pitch. The more you give, the more you get. At the end of the day, if you view that each of us is like a well, and the waters are fed by an underground spring, that spring is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you don't draw the waters, and you just keep the waters there, the well remains stagnant. But if you remove the waters and go ahead and nourish others with those waters, then what? Beautiful new waters have the ability to fill the space. Don't draw the water, leave the well as is, the water becomes putrid, fetid, and stagnant. Draw the waters, feed it to others, use it to revive others, beautiful new waters flow in place. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Ha'azinu hashamayim, as long as someone is listening, even the heavens, I'll be able to speak. But the moment that no one's listening, the moment I have no one to give to, Moshe Rabbeinu says, is the moment I no longer have the ability to speak. The Sar Shalom quotes an incredible Maisa. That one time, the Maggid Dober, one time went to the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, to his Rebbe. And what happens? So the Maggid spent some time by the Baal Shem Tov, and it was then time for the Maggid to take leave. Maggid had to leave. And a chassid doesn't take leave of his Rebbe without permission. So he went to take leave of the Rebbe, of the Baal Shem Tov. And Baal Shem Tov, come back tomorrow. And this happened for a couple of days. Until finally the Maggid said, Rebbe, I don't mean any disrespect. This is not a direct quote. But I don't mean, but what's going on over here? I have to go home. I have to go home, right? You have to let me go. And the Baal Shem Tov says so beautifully, I'll quote it to you the way it's quoted in the story. Mochi hu ma'ayan hanaveya. The Baal Shem Tov said, my mind, my soul is like a flowing spring. V'hamayon kichol sheshoa v'mimenu miskaber hu v'holech. The spring, the more you draw from it, the more the water flows. The Baal Shem Tov said to his beloved Talmud, when you're here, I get to share my waters with you. And the more I get to share my waters with you, the more beautiful waters flow into my well. The moment you leave is the moment my well becomes stagnant. So the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh was unwilling to let the Maggid of Mezrich leave. And I'll say that's the pshat in the pasuk, and it's the pshat. Ha'azinu hashamayim va'adabeira. We'll say sometimes we think that when we give to others, it's at our own expense. So I'm a balchat, so I'm going to do it anyway. But at the end of the day, I am deficient. Mamish says the Sar Shalom, nothing can be further from the truth. Ha'azinu hashamayim va'adabeira. The more you give, the more you get. The more you share the waters of your well with others, the more HaKadosh Baruch Hu is able to replenish them. As we go into a new year, we go into a Shabbos HaHazinu. This is technically the second Shabbos of the new year. But it feels a little bit like the first Shabbos of the new year after Yom Kippur. And I must say we should just realize there are boundless opportunities to give. Whether it's to give of our resources, to give of our time, to give of our empathy, to give of our love. And even though it feels like you're giving up a part of yourself, know that every single time you share your sweet waters of holiness with someone else, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is constantly and perpetually replenishing them. Shabbos.